Okay, first actual video with the Raptor. Actually, if you didn't see the video where I got this truck, 2014 SVT Raptor, obviously, and turns out it has the special edition package. Can't go wrong with some Aussie, but the thing about this truck is that it is rather high mileage, 158,812 miles. And if we go to my trip, since I got the truck, I've put on already, oh wow, 2,500 miles. Now the first 2,500 miles with the truck haven't been necessarily super smooth, but that's what I'm going to be talking about in today's video. Every issue with my high mileage Gen 1 Raptor. A couple of the things happened under my ownership already, and a couple of things the truck just came with. So let's go ahead and get into the first item. All right, so real quick, let's just go ahead and start off cosmetically. Can you find a high mileage Raptor that's relatively clean? Now this is after I've had it detailed already, cut and buff. They waxed it. I don't know why, it's Raptor, but as you can see, straight down the side of the truck, there are things here and there, some scratches, a little bit of pinstriping. There's one deep scratch right here, but I mean, look at the thing. 10 feet, 10-foot paint job. Looks pretty dang good if you ask me. For almost 160,000 miles. Under the truck was definitely the hardest to find in terms of finding a clean one. Not much rust on this one, Pacific Northwest truck. CVs don't look rusted out. Like I said, relatively clean truck. Ignore the skid plate and the bash bar. I did that at the dunes, but you'll see that in an upcoming video. And real quick, interior clean as well. As you can see, headliner looks good. Only thing on the interior is in the rear seat here. There is one tear. Oh well. Bed of the truck too, bed liner is dirty. Already had some dirt bikes in here, but clean as well. Now let's get into the juicy stuff, the mechanical side of the truck. This is where I wish I did a little bit more research, but for the most part, most of these things are my fault. So we'll go ahead and start off with the first one. First item on the list, as you can see here, yeah, we blew a shock seal. Went to the dunes, so it makes it more pronounced with the sand here, but it happened on the first off-road venture, doing some light trails, but we were going through them pretty fast, and we were hitting lots of Raptor-sized potholes, if you will. Noticed that the shock was leaking. Was gonna get them rebuilt, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. It's not affecting the ride yet. It's not like all the fluid's leaked out, so the front end is bouncing around a lot. But the plan for that is just to wait until I can afford some upgraded coilovers like Icon 3.0s. I saw a video of a guy with them going like 75, 80 miles an hour over 1.5 foot tall whoops spaced out, I forget what he said, 5 to 6 feet. So that'll do it for me. Any faster than that, well, that's borderline roll cage territory, which you guys will also see. I should probably get a roll cage for this thing with the way I drive. But first issue, leaking shocks. Probably should check into that before you get a high mileage Raptor. Last time they've been rebuilt, don't let the salespeople try to say, oh, well, if they're just shocks, if they're not leaking, they're good. These are supposed to be built between 10,000 and 50,000 mile intervals. But that's issue number one. Issue number two, again, my doing. How to destroy a power steering pump. Now ignore the rust and whatnot. Haven't gotten the bracket powder coated yet, but this is an upgraded Howe power steering reservoir with a filter. Here's my power steering cooler with a fan. And down there, we have a new power steering pump. I'll insert a couple clips here just so you get an idea of what I was doing. But I believe it was the second or third outing in the truck. I blew the freaking power steering pump out. I mean, come on, it's a Raptor after all. You're telling me it can't handle a couple donuts, some sketchy hill climbs and whatnot? Apparently not. Apparently this is a big issue with the Raptor anyways, the power steering. Stock power steering system really isn't up to par with some of the duties of this truck, especially with the big 35-inch tires on a 17-inch wheel, mind you, so you got more rotating mass there. When I got it, power steering was a little bit heavier than my mom's 2011. Of course, it's not a Raptor, but I'm pretty sure I'm the one who blew it out. It got to the point where I couldn't even move the wheel at idle, and when you gave it gas, it would whine, and you could turn the wheel, but as soon as the revs settled down, you were back to that stiff steering, no power steering. So at idle and in park, can't get the wheel to move, give it gas, yeah, power steering whines pretty good. So if you're looking at a higher mileage Raptor, definitely check out the power steering pump. Seems like common sense, but try and get a good look at it, see if it looks like it's been replaced recently, see if there's any power steering upgrades. I believe this whole setup was new power steering pump, 300, this 180. This I believe was 180. I believe everything in total was about $700. Now moving on to the last thing with the motor here, let's go ahead and start it up. Sounds real good. So definitely check your idler pulleys. I replaced both of mine because I had a little bit of low RPM whine when getting on the throttle. There was a bit of play with the driver's side idler pulley. Now my first video with the Raptor, I was giving it some revs under the hood here, and you could hear a bit of whine. I believe that was the idler pulley for the most part. Could have been power steering as well, but we got both of those replaced. Let's give it a listen. Now for the most part, I'm pretty sure that's coming from the airbox because I replaced the power steering pump already, obviously. Get rid of that whine. Idler pulleys, get rid of that whine. Crank pulley looks good. Water pump looks good as well. Same with the tensioner when I was checking it out when I was doing the power steering. So I believe most of that whine is airbox, but who knows? When we supercharge it, if that whine goes away, that's what it was. So that just about does it for the engine in terms of issues I have with my high mileage Raptor. When you're buying a high mileage vehicle, you should probably check out these things anyways, but this was the first high mileage vehicle I've owned and didn't really cross my mind to check some of these things out. To be fair, power steering was probably my doing. Shocks, I don't know, probably not totally my doing. I mean, I was harsh on it, but the other shocks are fine, so it's probably just an age thing with the seals. So that wraps up the engine. So the last few issues here, they're not as big of a deal as the issues I was just talking about. Idler pulley, drive belt stuff, power steering, those can be a bit more serious if things go wrong with them. These next items are things that you definitely want to check out. Some of them aren't really too big of a deal. So we're gonna take off and we'll see if you guys can hear it. Hear that little squeak? Nice to have good power steering. All right, again. There you go, you heard two of them. Two of them again. So, I did some research on that, and apparently that is just the suspension of the Raptor. With it being high performance suspension, apparently it makes some noise. It's not really a big deal, but my dad said something about it. He said that's something in the drive line, you should definitely figure out what it is. And you can hear it there. Now, I'm almost 100% certain that it's the suspension, because if you come back here in the bed of the truck and you go, well, when I had a trailer hooked up, it was making the noise. I'll set the camera up here, so hopefully you guys can hear it when I take off. Alright, so hopefully you guys heard that, but the thing to check out about that, if it's not the suspension, apparently it can be the Driveshaft yoke, and there's a little bit of play in there. See, you can get on the brakes and you can hear it. So, front back. Yep. So that's probably the suspension right there. Now, the only other drivetrain mechanical issue seems to be, it sounds like dragging brakes, but when I'm driving, you can hear some squishing noises. You hear a ch, 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 ch. Seems to be associated with the tires or revolution of the wheels. So I'm pretty sure it's probably a dragging brake pad or something. Nothing's scraping on the wheel. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Let's go through a place where the sound will be echoed. While we're at it, let's have a little fun. Well, yeah, a little bit of dragging noise. Like I said, not all of these issues are big deals, but I guess it is worth noting on a high mileage Raptor. Do some more mall crawling right here again. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up my list on every issue I have with my 2014 SVT Raptor. Special edition, that doesn't really matter though if you're looking at this video to see what issues to look for when you're looking to buy a high mileage Raptor. Like I said, I've never had a high mileage vehicle, never really expected to get one, but I wanted a truck, and the only truck I wanted to get was a Raptor. But maybe there were, what, 5, 6 issues, something like that, that I pointed out in this video, and they're all easy fixes. I'd say the biggest things to look out for are power steering and the drive belt accessories and the shocks. Because you buy a Raptor for the shocks, and they do require, oftentimes, more rebuilds than a stock set of shocks on the F-150. But that is going to do it for today's video with my Raptor here. If you enjoyed or found it useful, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Share it to your friends, those who may enjoy it or find it useful. Hit that subscribe button. Keep up with all the Raptor action. We already took this thing to the dunes and we sent it a little bit. But if you're into motorsports, you're in the right place. With all that being said, join the club, and I'll see you in the next one. This is funny.
Warning. Warning. You violated an area protected by security. The authorities have been notified.
Oh, that's some high-tech stuff. Oh yeah, because of all the things I did in that parking lot, filming myself talking about a truck is definitely the worst thing that you should call the authorities about. Never mind wheelies, never mind hill climbs, and throwing roosters on a dirt bike. Talking to a camera about a truck. That's what you call law enforcement for. Now, one last thing worth mentioning on the driveline side of things, not really an issue, but definitely something that you want to look into. Obviously, Gen 1 Raptors, people talking about bent frames. I put the SVC frame supports in, but there's the bump stop. Check the frame out, see if it's been a little bit tacoed, if you will. Like I said, not an issue with mine, but it is worth noting if you're looking at a high mileage Raptor, especially if the previous owner was a bit hard on it.